Hi, Miguel here, back with another Naruto vlog. Today we are doing Volume 5, The Challengers. And we met a lot of characters this time around. And I wrote all their names down so I don't forget any of them. But if I forget someone or if I mispronounce someone's name, do let me know. Please correct me very nicely. I do have feelings. Okay, so let's get right into it. So we met Rock Lee last volume, and he challenged Sasuke to a fight. And it turns out we see throughout the course of this fight that Rock Lee's strength lies in his physical ability rather than in ninja arts or in spells, which I kind of figured was, part of the whole ninja deal already, but I guess, his physical strength is such that it surpasses, the regular ninja, despite the fact that he doesn't rely as much on ninja arts or spells as much as the others do. So that would make Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura a little more well-balanced in comparison to him. But the fact that he's so good at that physical strength really makes up for it, and Sasuke begins developing a bit of a rivalry. I would imagine. Probably not. I don't see them. I don't see them clashing too often. But we also meet his mentor, Might Guy. I think is how you pronounce that name. And Guy is, interestingly enough, I've seen these two in other media. In Naruto video games and stuff like that, and whenever I did, I kept mixing them up. I kept mixing up their names and their faces because they looked so similar. And after reading this, I'm glad to see an explanation for that, because Master Guy is Rock Lee's mentor, which and Lee really looks up to him. That makes a lot of sense. I'm glad they cleared that up, and I'm interested to see how whatever roles they are going to play in the future, because I've seen them in other games. They look interesting. But we also meet several of the other teams who are taking the exam and competing against Naruto and gang. We meet the team under Kurenai, who consists of Kiba, Shino, and Hinata. Now, we don't know a whole lot about Kiba and Shino just yet. Kiba has a little puppy on his head, was absolutely adorable, and he uses him to help him in the exam, which is a lot of fun to see. But I'm interested to see how these two play into the story, what their abilities are, how they're going to interact with Naruto and gang in the future, I suppose. But Hinata's interesting. I very much ship Hinata and Naruto. Hinata is very, very adorable. She's very shy, very timid, especially around Naruto. She seems to have a thing for him. And Naruto, interestingly enough, he seems to treat Hinata very differently than the others, even Sakura. So Naruto very much has the hots for Sakura, you should go on a date with me and not Sasuke, that kind of thing. But Hinata, he actually treats with a very decent amount of respect. He's like, if I'm going to cheat, well, I'm going to talk about that in a bit, but if I'm going to fail, I don't want you failing with me. So it's a very interesting dynamic that the two already have going on with each other, and it's very strange, but very promising for me. Hinata, in particular, I'm very curious to see how she's going to act in an action scene, in a fight scene or something, because we're going to have to see her as a ninja act in a fight scene sooner or later, right? So I'm very excited to see how that plays out. I don't always imagine shy and timid people, especially people as shy as Hinata, in action sequences. So I'm very eager to see how that plays out. We also meet the team under Asuma, who consists of a bunch of people that the manga actually describes as fools. Choji, who is described as a fat fool. That's pretty much all we know about him. Ino, who's described as a fool for Sasuke, which puts her at odds with Sakura. They seem to be rivals, it seems like, and I hope that's elaborated upon in the future volumes. And Shikamaru, who I've actually seen in some other media. I actually own a pair of socks featuring Shikamaru on them. It was a gift. So I want to see how he plays into the story. I'm imagining he plays a bit of a major role. I'm not sure, but we'll see. We'll see. And of course, we have the team from the village hidden in the sand, which is Gara, whom we met in the previous volume. We met all of them in the previous volume. Gara, Kankuro, and Temari. And we do see them utilize their sand powers in the exam. I'm very curious to see how these guys will utilize their sand powers in an action scene. There wasn't a whole lot of action in this one. Just a heads up. There's like a brief scuffle before the exam even begins, but that's very quickly ended. And then we also meet a guy named Kabuto, who has taken this exam 7 times now. This is his 4th year taking the exam, and so he has a lot of like cards regarding the details of the exam, regarding details of the other takers, the other students. And the one thing that he doesn't seem to have very much information on, first of all, Gara. We see him have a card on Rock Lee, which is how we learn that he's got like enhanced physical prowess, but not great ninja and spell abilities. But he also has a card on Gara, and it's like, that's all I know about him. That's all I know about him. He's a total mystery. In addition to Gara, we also have the Sound Ninja, who are also complete mysteries due to being from a fairly new ninja clan, if I remember correctly. And they seem to rely, unsurprisingly, on the sounds to gain as part of their ninja arts. So they can listen to the sounds, and they can like visualize what's going on, which I relate to. I have very good hearing but horrible eyesight, so I often rely on my ears more than my eyes a lot. So those are a lot of the challengers that we've met, and I'm eager to see how all of them interact in an action sequence. I kind of wish we had met them, like gotten to know them really, really well before we took this exam, and I'll explain why in a second. So the first part of the exam is proctored by a guy named Ibiki, who we see Kakashi and the other mentors. They're like, oh, Ibiki's proctoring this exam? We're screwed. And apparently that's because Ibiki is an interrogator. He is very good at getting into people's heads and also psychologically manipulating them, and that's what he ends up doing to the students. So the first part of the exam is a written portion. It has 10 questions, and you start off with 10 points. For every question you get wrong, you lose 1 point. For every time you cheat, you lose 2 points. And your final score is tallied up with your teammates, so total score of 30 points. And if anyone reaches 0 points at any time, they and their team are disqualified. So anything that you do directly affects your teammates as well. But the exam is structured to be so hard that you can't complete it. At least most of the students can't complete it without cheating. And that's interesting because, like, the point of the exam isn't to display your knowledge on the stuff that you need in order to become a shonen. The point is to show that you are capable of gathering information stealthily and effectively, and you're capable also of gathering the right information. You're not, like, copying from the wrong student's test. Which is like very, very interesting way of setting this up. Like setting it up so that people cheat, to encourage cheating, but to discourage horrible cheating. Like cheating that's so obvious you can't get away with it. That's interesting, and a lot of people do get disqualified for being caught cheating too many times. And so and this is why I kind of wish we had met all of these other students before the exam, because then we would get a very good idea of what powers they can use while seated at that desk, like stealthily writing, to, very inconspicuously gather the information from the students around them or from the disguised journeyman in the classroom in order to finish the exam. We see the guys from the Sand Village we see them use like gather up sand to create like an eye that gets into bits of sand that get into people's eyes where to the point where they can read the exam. It's very strange and very, but it works basically. We see Ino temporarily possess Sakura so that she can read all her test answers because she knows Sakura, being so intelligent, already has the entire test completed. We see the little puppy on Kiba's head, like spying on other people and going, "Arr, arr," and like Kiba's like, okay, we're good. I don't know how he got away with that. I feel like a puppy barking on your head would not be inconspicuous at all. And actually, Naruto almost copies off of Hinata. Hinata tries to let Naruto copy off of her, but Naruto eventually refuses, saying, you know, if I cheat and I fail, I don't want you failing with me. Again, like playing into this interesting dynamic between the two that I'm very interested to see how this plays out. So yeah, a lot of interesting ways that the guys cheat and don't get caught cheating. Well, sometimes they get caught, but for the most part, they end up surviving for most of a test. When they get to the 45-minute mark, they are eligible to gain the 10th and final question, which Naruto is riding on because he knows Naruto during the entire test. First of all, he doesn't know the answers to any of the questions, which is to be expected of someone of his level because that's how the test was designed. But he also has not figured out at this point that you're supposed to cheat. He has not figured that out. Everyone else has figured it out and is cheating like crazy, but Naruto has not figured that out yet. So his test is completely blank. He is riding on that 10th question in order to keep him and Sasuke and Sakura in the exam. But the 10th question, it turns out, Ibiki tells them that in order to you have to accept or refuse the 10th question. If you refuse, your entire team fails, but you can take the exam next year. But if you accept the 10th question and you get it wrong, not only do you fail, you cannot take the exam again. Which, like, leaves Naruto with a big decision. Does he reject the question and cause Sasuke and Sakura to fail with him, or does he accept the question and risk his own future as a ninja? Which he ends up he ends up accepting the question very courageously, saying that even if he fails, he's still going to find a way through sheer force of his stubbornness to become a Hokage, which is interesting. I don't know what I would have done in that situation. I feel like I'm too much of a coward to really risk it. And it turns out that is the 10th question. Like, if you accept that question, you automatically pass that first part of a test, because ninja need to accept missions where their lives might be on the line. And are you really going to reject that mission simply to save your own skin and live to fight another day? Or are you going to be noble and take that mission knowing that you might die? And that's what's required of a ninja in order that sort of courage. And Ibiki turns face at that point. Then we move on to the beginning of the second portion of the exam, which is basically a 5-day survival test in this place called the Forest of Death. And the proctor here is Anko Mitarashi, who Sakura mentions reminds her a lot of Naruto for her impetuousness, her really energetic spirit. And the rules of this are interesting. Each team is given a different scroll. They're given one of two scrolls, and the objective is to take another team's scroll and arrive at a tower, which means that at least half of them would fail this test because they'd have their scroll taken from them. And no one knows who has what scroll, and they're starting at different points in the forest, but they're going to survive for 5 days in that forest and try to gain another team's scroll. And by the way, it's a no-holds-barred sort of competition here, which means someone could die. I'm very nervous about that because I'm very scared for Hinata. I'm very scared for a lot of these people. I'm very interested to see like how these like student level ninja interact with this new life or death situation sort of thing. Uh, but yeah, so no one knows who has what scroll. They're all starting at different points in the forest. We also have an interesting new trio jump into the mix. Apparently, the Grass Ninja, and they're very mysterious. The Sound Ninja seem to have their own agenda. They seem to care about. There's something going on with these trios that is not related to the test. And I'm very curious to see how that plays out. So I gotta say, this was a fun volume. The exam was a lot of fun to watch. It was interesting seeing how they use their little ninja arts to cheat. How they use them to while writing at a desk, and very surreptitiously, might I add. So, like, there wasn't a whole lot of movement going on. It's interesting to see how people are able to use these ninja arts and these spells. Sasuke used the Sharinganai at one point. It's very interesting. So, it displays that ninja arts can be used off the field of battle, and even without without much movement, or very creatively and very cleverly, so that they can do it without being noticed. And I'm also curious to see how these ninja do against each other in the field of battle. And all that is going to come, I'm assuming, in the next volume. So I will see you then.